Got it.
Neil Rogers, author of Bar Tips, all the way from New Hampshire. Welcome to the Sales Podcast, man. How the heck are you?
Wes, I'm doing great. How are you, my friend?
I'm good.
All
So,
right.
as soon as I got the title of this book, I'm like, I think we're kindred spirits. I must talk to this guy. You were accepted.
Exactly. Oh, there I go again. This
There
book
we go. So,
hopefully
bar
doesn't
tips.
cost as much.
Everything I needed to know in sales, I learned behind the bar. I could say like everything I needed to know, I learned at the bar. All right, I got to tell you this. You may not know this. You might have looked at my LinkedIn, but I used to sell mobile homes. And there was this old joke, this old salesman. He's bellied up at the bar. He's going through a dry spell, and this cute little thing comes up and sits next to him, and he says, "Man, if I don't sell some trailers, I'm gonna lose my ass." She says, "If I don't sell my ass pretty soon, I'm gonna lose my trailer." But I digress. I digressed. So what is up with this book, man? Are you like a famous bartender? Like, why should we talk to you? What do salespeople need to know from a bartender?
Well, as the story goes, I've been in sales for now 37 years. I spent 10 or so years behind the bar, another 4 or 5 in total, so 15 or so in the hospitality business. And I've had some success on the road. And I think I've done it very old school like and golden rule ish. And so we were a buddy of mine contacted me. Well, I was reaching out during COVID to anybody that would listen. You know, who wants to talk today, right? Texting them, and it would be mainly, "How you doing?" Invariably, I get a phone call back, and the phone call back, we get to chatting. And this one guy who called me back was a wildly successful Mass Mutual agent, general agent. So he had $100 million under assets under management, and he had 100 or so agents working for him. So but his success and his behaviors took him to a place where he needed life-saving surgery. He got the transplant he needed, and I talked to him 18 months afterwards. And he said to me, he was just talking, and he told me all these things that he had done in the last 18 months. And I was just wowed by it. I said, "Dude, you're my hero." And one of the things he had done is he had written a book. So he says, "You should write a book." I said, "What am I going to write on?" Right? I mean, I've had a good life. I've been reasonably successful and whatnot. And then started thinking about it a little bit, and we came up with this. I started thinking, and I had written a few ditties about a bar I worked at in this place called White Horse Beach, Massachusetts, which is part of Plymouth, your America's hometown, right? And it was a real emotional thing because, as a guy who was a commuter student, those were my fraternity brothers, people that I worked with in bars were, because I was a commuter student. I never, and not a good one until later on, I figured it all out. And so I started using pieces of that. And then the concept came from the time where my wife and I were at a chamber event right here in our hometown of Nashua, New Hampshire, right now on property. And my daughter was being honored as one of the fastest people to watch under 30. The chamber, they've got an award for everything. And so we went, and the guy who brought Five Guys burgers to New Hampshire was the keynote speaker. Great speaker, nuts and bolts, plain talk, much like you'll read in the book, right? We strategically, well, because I don't speak that way. I'm not going to write that way. He talked about how, if you've ever worked in hospitality, when you were a waiter or a bartender or whatnot, they had what they call pre-meal, where they gave you what the specials were, what's 86, and then a little bit of a rah-rah speech, right? And so his speech was, we're not in the burger business. We're not in the fry business. We're not in the shake business. We're in the hospitality business. Now, for a point of context, my wife and I met when I worked at a place called Tia's in Boston, which again, we reference quite a bit in the book. Learned a lot there. And I looked at her and said, "I have never left the hospitality business. I've been bartending on the road for 37 years. And then I started, and then, so that kind of got me to the concept of the book. Of course, this was in retrospect, because that award had taken, like, it was 2 or 3 years earlier. But I started interviewing people that I worked with, people that own bars that I worked at, or restaurants, or whatever, guys that I worked with, people that had been in the business a long time. Some are still in it. One of the guys in the book is kind of a mentor of mine at that point, and he owns a place called the Boston Sail Off, and that's it right there on the back of the book. And so I just started coming up with these concepts. It's simple, again, plain language. There's no high level marketing concepts going on here. Be nicer, say hello, smile, be on time, actually be early.
Crazy, huh?
So that's
But it's all AI and Chat GPT and machine learning now, man.
Yeah, well, not for me. Yeah. No,
But it's the future.
that's the latest shiny red toy you were talking about, right? And that's where everybody's going to go down that path, instead of staying on their path and keeping their process going. And I'm not saying I've dabbled. I've done a few things. I've queried a few things. One of the things I queried was about a book called Frames of Mind by Howard Gardner. And it talks about the 7 types of intelligence, because when you get into the book, you'll see that my struggle to find out coming out of high school was I was the 7th of 8 of a negative Irish Catholic family. So there wasn't a lot, as much, I have no axe to grind with my parents. I love my family, but it just was, I wouldn't call it the most supportive environment, not like we have it today, right?
Right.
So I go up to my mother literally in May and go, is there something I should be doing next year in my senior year? So I struggled through trying to figure out my path. And I stayed all the way. I did go to school. I flunked out. I stayed in the hospitality business. I set my sights on getting a bar job, because I thought that was cool. I got the bar job and discovered that I like to serve people. But then also I discovered, as I started working, as much as I was enjoying it, that was not going to be my life's work. And what people would say to me was that, with your interpersonal skills, you should be in sales. So one of the 7 types of intelligence that Howard Gardner speaks about is interpersonal skills, interpersonal intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And so so that was why I was glad to, I bought the book, but got the Cliff Notes version off of Chat GPT.
Is that related to like emotional intelligence and things like that, or is he bringing that in?
He doesn't. That's not his gig.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some parallel to there. I didn't study that book or even research it at all. There was, but I think it's somewhat tied together. It would seem to make sense that if you have emotional intelligence, it's a different type of. It may or may not be classic academic intelligence. I just knew in my world where it played for me is that my school, I was an average student. My SAT scores and my combined SAT scores and my class rank had one thing in common. They were both in the triple digits. Okay, so, but I wound up figuring it out.
Right.
And I figured out how I learned. And I figured out also how to ingratiate myself to the professors, showing up, asking questions, taking notes, going to the office hours, answering questions in the class, doing the extra work, and be noticed that if you're teetering on a B+ or an A-, you might get the A-. So kind of a reverse sales job there.
Well, people are always surprised when I tell them that, at least back when I went through the Air Force Academy, I said, if you did not want to fail out, you would not fail. I mean, it was hard, we 18 to 21 credit hours per semester was the norm, even playing sports. Plus, it doesn't count your military training, which is essentially another class. It's just not academic. So, I mean, you're grinding for 4 years. And, but I remember, the first day going to class and all of the teachers, like one of the first things they did was write their phone number on the board, and said, you get stuck, you have a question, you call me, you come to my office for extra credit for one-on-one. So if you did not want to fail out, now doesn't mean you're going to get all A's, you might
Right.
be a C- student, but you would graduate if, they made themselves available to help those that wanted to help themselves.
Correct.
And people were surprised, I mean, it's a hard school, hard to get into, but it's probably true of anything, once. But I'm always trying to help people. I'm trying to figure out how to create the pressure to get my clients to excel without having them hit rock bottom. I've had 620 something interviews now, and a lot of stories people I've had over this decade that hit rock bottom, bankruptcy, foreclosure, divorce, lawsuits, and then they rose up from the ashes. So a lot of us probably just got to get the scars, but is there a way to can we create that motivation without the pain?
I mean, I think I guess it's just where your mindset is at the time. I was really a kid. I mean, I was 17 years old, graduating high school, and with no real rudder or guidance, not like we have it today. I mean, we mapped out our kids from sophomore year on.
Right.
Where do you think? My daughter was a Division I athlete, so that was foregone conclusion. But we had a process that we went through on that. So it's all in what I think, for me, anything that I have been successful at, there's been a process associated with it. And again, when I think back on the school thing, it's all all this stuff is in retrospect. I was thinking back on how did I actually turn from a twice flunked out kid in school to a 385 student. And it was paying attention and doing the simple things and ingratiating yourself to the people that hold the keys to the kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
So
the same thing if you're going to, if you're approaching a customer, whatever you call them. We happen to call them clients now. It's the same approach.
How long were you bartending before you got into sales?
So I started when I was 19. I wrapped up behind the bar when I was 28, and I had been selling from 26 and a half. So a year and a half. And one of the reasons why I kept the bar is because I started out with a commission. Most of my jobs have been commission only.
Sure.
And so really entrepreneurial or some minimal base, and which was going to run out anyways.
Right.
So I kept two nights on the bar and made 4 times what I made in my pay during the week.
Right.
Right? So it kept me afloat, and again, Jamie at the sale off was very accommodating to my schedule, so it worked out well, and I got to still play a little bit, and I enjoyed it.
Right.
It's good.
Yeah. So you've got, what do we have here? 16 chapters.
Yeah.
In the book. And then from that, your website has spun off positiveactivity.net. What are some things that carried over from bartending to sales? I mean, so you talk about, show up, be nice.
Well,
take notes, but like
the importance of a proper greeting. And then what I've done, and so again, as I reread the book and as I think about more about it, I've now I called it, like, when I was doing my little Facebook, local marketing, I call it the golden rule type advice. Well, now I'm associating what I believe to be golden rules, or I came up with a golden rule for each of the 10 or so chapters that are actually rules of that I picked up. The subsequent chapters, the first couple are memoirish, so it gives you a little background. That was about, to talk about my story, to give a kid in the same situation some hope that you can find your innate skills, or find what a lot of stuff that you've been learning, could be valuable to your career, whatever that may be. You might have been you might have been working on the cars with your dad. Wasn't my gig. My father was unbelievable at it. I did not get that gene. Matter of fact, there's tons of stories I can tell you about that, but and then the third chapter, again, piecing together what I was going to make a book about, was research I had done on hospitality, how other people and other businesses use hospitality, right? That they're engaging their customers, true hospitality. And then we get into, the simple, basic things, which are the importance of the proper greeting, which you might well imagine the golden rule associated with that is you only get one time to make that first impression.
Yep.
Make it a good one, right? And the way, and now and this isn't even in the book, this is the one I now speak on because it's so resonant, it strikes a resonant chord with everybody, is, do you remember when Home Depot came to town? Right?
Kind of.
Right? You walked in, there's a sea of people with orange aprons ready to help you. Right? How can I help you? What's your project? Tell me about your budget here.
That was a long time ago.
Let me take you over here. Exactly.
Not anymore.
You walk in, they're hiding on you. You can't find anybody and then the person who actually engages you has no clue I'm in the wrong department, or whatever it may be. And I'm not a big DIY guy. I don't want to, but what it's done for me is, and the things that I need is, I go to Beltate's. He's the local guy. So guess what happens when I walk through the door? How you doing? What's going on? Tell me about your project. What are you looking for? Oh, you need paint? Come on, let me take you to the paint guy. I ran into the paint guy at one of my local lunch places one day, and I said, "Hey, you're the paint guy at Beltate's, aren't you?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Thank you. You were awesome." So simple, right? Simple things. So how can they right the ship if they wanted to? I don't know. They don't seem to want to, because every time I still, and I don't go in there often, as I said. But I mean, there's an unwritten rule, or one that's been used by the Ritz-Carlton. It's called the 10-5 rule. And the 10-5 rule says, if you're within 10 feet of a customer, you ought to acknowledge them with some sort of nod or wave or something of that nature. If you're within 5, you ought to speak to them, greet them verbally. And it does. And so my challenge to anybody that questions that, I say, okay, do you go for walks? Go for walks. Every person you meet, say hello to them. Good morning. How are you? And see how you feel. You get that response back. You're not going to bat 1,000. Somebody's going to have a bad morning or afternoon. But the vibe you're going to get back from them, and the way that you're going to feel, is going to put you in a better, more positive light.
Yeah.
And then, so other things like organization, as a salesperson, what is more important than being prepared, organized? And so, and I think back, so how does that equate from a bar perspective into what we do on the road? Well, I'll tell you, this one place, T is in Boston. It is on a Friday night, at least back in the day. I haven't been there in 20 years on a Friday night. It was the busiest place you've ever seen. You had 13. I'd have, in one station I worked, you had 13 food and cocktail waitresses coming at you. You had people to the right in an alcove, people to the left at the bar, but they had prepared for that. So that right here, you had the wine tap, Heineken, Bass Ale, Miller, and Miller Lite. And let me tell you how long ago this was. $1.30 for Miller Lite, $1.60 for Heineken and Bass Ale. I think the wine was $1.75 coming out of that spout. It must. I'm not a wine drinker. I don't know what it tastes like. To this day, I can tell you exactly the lineup. And in front of you, you have the speed rack where all the bar liquors were. If you want a vodka tonic, you got this. And so, but then they had slanted racks to the right where all the call liquors were. And to this day, we only had 3 call vodkas, and that was Absolute, Stolzschneier, and Smirnoff. Not today, they've got 4 zillion of them.
Right.
But I could tell you what each shelf is today. So they had prepared to be busy. So a salesperson needs to be prepared to be busy, needs to be prepared to call on customers, needs to be prepared. So one of the things, so an example that I give, when I went from the food industry, I sold, one of my first jobs was I sold in the food industry for a distributor in Boston. So I was in and out of every hotel and restaurant kitchen in Boston. On a Monday morning, I'd make 20 physical calls by 11 o'clock in the morning. You had seconds to deal with these guys, and they wanted nothing to do with you, especially the new kid coming in. So you better be prepared with all the things that you think, anticipate what you think what their questions are going to be. And they're going to be, what's your price on this? What's your price on that? What's your price on this? What do you get for specials? And oh, by the way, do you have anything new? So I was prepared every day with those in a simple binder, no complex marketing theory, just pat them in a binder, yada, yada, yada. And then I would take something that would be a new product, and I'd have that to just give me my 30 seconds to sell something. So remember when the flicker you use in your grill? I remember when they first came out and we sold them. Oh yeah, I'll take 10 of those. So now you've made that add-on sale, and you've also given them the information that you think they needed. And then you take their order, and then did you figure that out, like trial and error? Did your manager say, hey, do it this way? No, that was when again, innately I had it. I knew to be prepared. I knew to be organized. And again, that gets back to
did you know how to be prepared? Like, did you have to go like get your nose bloodied for a couple of weeks and go, oh, holy crap, I gotta tighten this thing up?
Oh, there's always, I mean, get a rep ready to go out and get beat up, right? They need to, they know enough right now to go out and make some mistakes. So yes, I wouldn't say I bat 1,000 from jump, no question. But
yeah, I think it's just some of it's pride, some of it's maybe that back against the wall, sales and marketing. See a lot of companies, they pay their salespeople too well, so they're not motivated to innovate. They're sitting back on their haunches, waiting for leads to come in. They complain if they're not perfect, instead of getting up and getting after it. And the old Ogilvy adage, we must enter the conversation going on in the mind of the prospect. We've got to put ourselves in their shoes and say, what's going on in their minds? What's this bar owner, bar manager, operations manager thinking at 8:30 a.m. on a Monday morning? And how do I, because we have to meet them where they are. We have to adjust how we sell to match how our prospects buy.
Of course.
So okay, I got this 37-page full color brochure, but I got 1 minute with them. I better dumb this thing down,
right?
And don't take it personally.
Exactly.
But everybody wants to take it personally. They want to, the laptop lifestyle. You see all these people, I would never take a laptop to a pool. I've never taken a laptop to a pool. What the hell are people thinking? They're sitting on the side of the pool, acting like they're working. Like, give me a break.
I can't even see the screen.
I can see the screen. It was like, I'm not letting water get on my laptop, but I digress. But so I know somebody might be listening to this and saying, okay, great. That worked when beer was $1.30. Now everybody only gives us 30 seconds. Hell, now they only give us 3 seconds. They're going to skim our email. They're going to skim our social media post. You know, how does selling face to face 37 years ago translate to selling over Zoom today?
Well, it's clearly it's not optimal in the way I see it. I think your first sales job is to get in the building. Now, sometimes that's not possible. I mean, for you or I, it's not possible. You're in Southern California. I'm in Nashua, New Hampshire, 35 miles outside of Boston. But I think it all depends on your industry. You know, we still sell to, currently we sell to corporate clients. And we try, you know, it's been, you know, for the last 4 years, it's been a little bit of a challenge, but we can still get in to see them, but we have to have a compelling reason. And you have to be constantly, you have to be creative to be marketing to get in front of them. If that's your goal. I mean, I can't imagine, I feel very vulnerable, honestly, in this Zoom world, because a lot of the things, some of the things we talk about in here, reading the room. How do you read in the room on a Zoom call? You know, where's the body language? You know, so there's some way, shape, or form. You need to use your creativity to get in the building, and sometimes it's just not feasible because it's working from home. But can you meet them in a coffee shop down the street? Would they be up for that if you got into town? Maybe. All depends on what your opening silo is in terms of what your first sale is going to be and how much.
But are you trying to sell local? Or I mean, how do you justify going to Kansas City to meet someone in person?
Oh, you'd have to have, that's what I was saying. You'd have to have your opening sale would have to, but potential of the opening sale, and you would have to, you know, give you the courage to make the investment. Now,
Right.
I invest my own money in whatever we do. So
Sure.
it's, for me, I don't have to ask anybody. If we say, listen, you know, a trip to Kansas City is going to, in an overnight or one day, or it's going to cost me $1,000. Is that worth it?
Sure.
To start that development of that relationship? I can make that call. I don't have to run up the flagpole. So I think that you'd have to, that's the assessment. That's really understanding, knowing if they can buy what you sell. First law of business development, you know, is like, you know, am I creating a list of people that can't even buy what I sell?
Yeah.
So how's your research gone? Are you, you know, in our world today, everybody can buy what we sell. Now, are they going to buy what they sell? You know,
Sure.
but you know, we're in the swag business and have been for 26 years.
Yeah.
And, but we take a creative approach. There's a guy that used to have this sale. It was a sales trainer that I did some phone calls with, and he said, you got to eat your own dog food.
For sure.
So we practice what we preach.
Yeah.
We use multi-touch, multimedia campaigns.
Yep.
We don't, I believe, I could get in all sorts of trouble right here. I don't believe in digital marketing as an exclusive way to get somebody to buy. I know it's big, I get it, but when you know, if you're, you know, and it all depends on what you're trying to do.
Well, in a truly B2B complex sale, it's not going to be all digital. At some point,
Right.
There has to be at least a phone call, probably a Zoom meeting, probably multiple Zoom meetings, and probably meeting in person. I mean, on a bigger sale. But what I'm seeing and hearing as well through the interview and customers is, well, a lot of companies are pushing, you know, this return to office. A lot of workers are pushing back on it, but still there's more, people are going back to the office more than ever in the last 3 years. But people are also hungry to meet in person again. Conferences are coming back.
Yeah.
And as people get to the office, even if it is just to meet for coffee or lunch or dinner or whatever, people are like, probably haven't been taken to dinner in 3 years. This is
Right.
great. So I think that old school methodology still applies and is probably better than ever. And, I made a post just a couple of weeks ago because you always hear people, you got to zig when they zag, but they're all doing the same stuff. It's like, okay, you got AI and all this bulk stuff, media, merging, screen scraping, blasts. It's like, okay, the zig now to that zag is personal touch.
That's what we do.
People are like, oh, wait, what? It kind of, you see the smoke blowing out of their ears, like does not compute. Wait, what do you mean? But a lot of people don't have any interpersonal skills. I've got 5 daughters. I can tell you, they're not being courted. And it's not because they're not cute. My oldest daughter, she's 23. She dated one boy and married the second one. She dated. My 21-year-old, she's had a few boyfriends. They ended up being losers. She hardly goes on any dates. Beautiful girl. My 18-year-old just graduated high school. Beautiful. Didn't go to prom, didn't go to anything. Like, boys, they don't know how to date. They don't know how to engage.
No.
My oldest, he's 26. He confirms it, right? He's like, yeah, he's a bunch of dudes. He's got a girlfriend, but so even like they grew up with iPads and video games, and nobody has interpersonal skills.
So in this process, one of the things I did, again, another COVID lifesaver, did a number of things that we kept our business. Our business was actually pretty decent during COVID. But one of them was I mentored a couple of young men that were struggling, that didn't have, that just were like me when I was their age. Maybe they were a little bit older than I was, but couldn't get his footing in sales, trying to figure it out. And so I sat with, so I would talk to him every week, and we would get him into a process, and we'd take him through our positive activity process, which the first part of it was getting your mindset right. So we taught him that you should get up and move. Simple things. Have you ever meditated before? Take 5 minutes and just listen to your breath every day. Get out and move your body. Do conscious acts of generosity. Write down 3 things you're thankful for, a little gratitude practice. So I got him going with a 5-minute practice every morning, and he loved it. It's almost like I harken back when we had a beautiful yeah, we live in a golf community now, and we sold our home and all that. My wife and I left, and I remember the kids. They were all doing they were playing video games together, but in each other's basement. Remember that routine?
Sure.
When they went out and actually ran around the yards and played and got flush, they were the happiest they ever were.
Right.
So this guy, it was just a little bit of a right of the ship. I'm not taking credit for all of his success. He found the job. He just got his mindset right. He was living with this beautiful woman. He was engaged to be married, found the job he wanted, and he's happy as a lark now. And I know he's making a lot of progress in there. And I think that, I'm not taking all the credit, but I think some of these simple philosophies, simple processes are what these folks need. The same thing I said about the importance of a proper greeting. Oh, you don't believe it's good? I'll tell you what, walk down the street, say hello to everybody you meet, see how you feel. And it works.
I thought like in the Northeast, it was like, what you looking at? That's not how y'all greet?
No.
Come on, I saw Andrew Dice Clay. That's
yeah. Well, he's New York. That's a whole other kettle of fish.
That's New England. That's the Northeast. To me, I'm a Southerner, man. That's the Northeast.
No, I tell you, one of the things that we do every weekend. So we live here in New Hampshire, but we have a place in Plymouth, Massachusetts, which is near that first bar I worked at. And my wife and I, every time we go out, we sit at the bar to eat, because we invariably meet somebody that's sitting at the bar that wants to chat, and we get to know them. I sell a book every time I go out to dinner or for breakfast. I just start talking about it. It's like,
You
oh,
bring
that's
them with
got-
you? You have
No,
them in the
all I
car?
gotta do is go like this. Amazon, boom, done. Of course, I've got promotion. I get promotional openers. I get promotional.
Yeah, I
check.
don't want to send them to Amazon though, because you never know who they are. That's the bummer with Amazon.
Yeah, you're looking at, yeah, that's your I haven't trained my brain to think that way yet. I just pray to God they buy the book and they write me a review. So I'm living on hope on a lot of this stuff. But what's happened is, guess what we're using it for? We're thanking our clients by sending them a book signed.
Sure. You bet.
So, so our goal, and it's been getting, they're thrilled to get it. And it's, so obviously I sign it and
Sure.
date it, say something nice to them. And,
Yeah.
and so far to this point, it's not like a laundry list of reviews, but the reviews have been pretty strong, again, because of our intention of being simple and direct.
Yeah.
And I read a book called On Writing Well. And that was what we were taught. Concise sentences, no big words. I don't have any big words, right?
Yeah.
Not how I talk. I'm not going to try to have you break out the thesaurus, on you. So
Yeah, I think the Gettysburg Address is what, like 262 words?
Says a lot.
I think like the majority of them are one syllable words.
Well, I'm a big yes is more or less is more guy.
Oh, yeah.
I don't, we're having, when is this going to air?
About a week.
Okay, so I can't tell you the story, but so there's a surprise coming. And so where was I going? What were we talking
Well,
about?
I can push it back if you want. I can schedule this whenever you want.
Oh no, I'm happy to get it rolling. No,
Okay.
it's not that important. It was just for me. It was a story I was going to
About
tell.
less but better.
I'm sorry.
It was about less but better.
Yeah. So I believe that, the new trend when you go to a wedding, everybody's going to speak.
No.
And it's like, okay, let's get back to the band, the dancing, the food, the beer. Enough of it,
Yeah, we had 2 weddings last year, and I had my second son and my oldest daughter. They got married, and I guess it was my daughter's wedding. So, because the groom's family pays for the rehearsal dinner, right? And
Yep.
and so we're at the rehearsal dinner, and somebody, because the parents were speaking, whatever, and somebody said, "Hey, aren't you going to say something?" I'm like, "This ain't my gig."
Right. Yeah.
If they ask me to, I'm sure I can come up with something, but nope, no need to speak. And I'm in the Knights of Columbus here in our church, and I'm the Grand Knight right now. We just did our big fundraiser, the golf tournament, and I have some guys that run it. They ran it last year, did a great job, and he ran it again this year. And then the past Grand Knight, he's running with it, and we're at the dinner and the raffle and all, and they bring out the big check to give to the beneficiary. And I'm sitting with a woman, and she's like, "How come you're not up there?" Like, I don't have to be. It's like, I don't want or need the microphone all the time. Let someone else run with it. Everybody's like clamoring for the spotlight or whatever. It's like, that's too much energy, man. I'm lazy. I want to have a drink.
I'm here for a good time. I mean, this is what you do. I mean, I speak too. It's like, but okay, you guys handle this. I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm doing this.
Yep, I'm good. Sitting right over here, eating some prime rib. No
Well, I think
pressure.
that's so. Bringing it back to a sales thing, right? what makes, when do people start losing the sale?
They talk too much.
What do they say? That if you got them, to commit, the next one who talks loses. There's the golden rule on that one.
Yeah, when the sale's made, shut up.
2 ears, one mouth. Use them in that proportion.
Use them appropriately, huh?
I mean, can you argue with any of this stuff? I mean, it's like,
I know, but people, they keep wanting something new and fancy and whatever. And I'm like you, and maybe, I've done this for a while now. Part of me is jaded. I get it. Now I'm a grandpa. So I'm like, get off my lawn.
Right.
But people never forget how you make them feel. And I'm on the receiving end, having done this a long time now. My inbox, my email inbox, my social media inbox, especially my LinkedIn inbox, is full of junk. It's full of crappy pitches. And it's all, none of it is personalized. Literally 1% is personalized. And I know, because I discovered accidentally, because I put a dash and a red phone in my first name on LinkedIn just to stand out. And I took the phone out. I still have the dash though, because when people screen scrape, they bring over the dash and the icon. So I get emails. Hi, Wes Dash.
I get Neil P.
Yeah. So that's how I know it's been scraped. And I know it's, so 98% of those I just delete. I'll skim some of them if I've got time. And 1%, end up being okay, and I might reply. But if somebody actually takes the time to reach out, it's like, oh, well, okay, I'll talk to you just because you took the time and personalized it.
The thing that the only thing that I like, some days I want to have a little fun. And I just say, does this stuff really work? Please tell me it doesn't. I mean, but I think this is back to our original conversation. This is the paths people will go down to make themselves feel like they're marketing, or they're starting their sales process. Well, I sent out 400 emails today. Beautiful. Guess what? I got 400 that I didn't look at today. And I delete them.
I've worked with databases since I was still in the Air Force in '95. Worked with CRMs, software as a service, since 2007. It does not take more than in 5 minutes, you can skim 500 names, 1,000 names. You sort them in an Excel spreadsheet. I can scan all those names. Like, is there anything weird? And clean it up. I mean, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Is it worth 30 minutes to clean a 2,000 person database to at least make sure the first name is right? And they won't even do that, because it's all about churn and burn. Oh, I got my VA using AI, SSL and what's your ROI and your KPI? And whatever, dude, good for you. It's like, I don't want to grow that way.
Yeah, it's on my gig. I'll give you a story about a shoe store here in town. He been around for, I don't know, certainly 60 years or so, and started on a side street in downtown Nashua. Nashua is about a community of about 80,000 people. Then he bought an old department store, and moved when the son took over, he bought the building downtown. It used to be a department store. So he's going to clearly double his footprint. Once again, home run. Decides he no longer wants to be downtown, and moves and buys a building off of the highway. There's no way, I'm thinking, this is not going to work. Not that I didn't think it was going to work, but I didn't think he was going to have the volume, because people were used to, he's been around for so long. He went up there, home run. You know what the common denominator is? You walk in the door, they greet you, they ask you what you're looking for, they take you over to the department, they sit you down, they get the oh God, I should remember what it's called from my thought, the foot measurer, whatever, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Braddock or Brannick.
I
Brannick.
don't even know that name. I'd have to Google it.
And so they bring you out 5 different pairs.
Yep.
And they check your size. There's still a place for service to win.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, it's like, I gladly pay more for Apple if for no other reason that I get a human being on the phone quickly, a human being from America.
Right.
You know, and I've had an overseas VA for 12 or more years. I've got nothing against overseas people, but when I need help, I need to understand them.
Right.
And I will pay for that. Right. Get me quickly. You know, their menu is minimal, boom, 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 you know, and you can use voice, whatever, but it's like support representative, you know, iMac, boom. I've got a human, like, praise the Lord.
Right.
You know, so many places, click menu, wait and hold. Your call is very important to us. You know, then you get somebody overseas, you know, yes, I understand this is important. I will do my best to help you. I'm like, okay, if you really did your best, your owners would get me faster support, you know, but it doesn't look good on the bottom line, but they can't see the bigger picture. And so it's just a race to the bottom, who can do the least human touch and still stay open. It's mad.
Back to our Home Depot example, right? Same thing.
Yeah. Make them feel good, man.
It's but yeah, that's what we like to do here. It's what we call, and this is not my phrase, obviously everybody's used it, but we over deliver. We anticipate something that we surprise and delight them.
Yeah.
You know, oh boy, thank you for that.
Yeah. That's my ABCDE: attract, bond, convert, deliver or delight. Then
Right.
you endear. When you endear, you're back to attracting. It just goes round and round and round.
There you go. Just a different acronym. That's all.
Piece of cake. That's it. Well, all right. Speaking of daughters, my daughter is moving. I've got to go unload a truck.
Oh boy.
I'm not looking forward to that. So, you know, I'm a grandpa now. I shouldn't have to do that, right? That's going to be my excuse from now on. I'm a grandpa. No, I can't do that.
My days of moving furniture are over. Here's $1,000. Get a move.
Yeah, luckily I'm just helping them unload a couple things, because I'm like, I got to be at jiu-jitsu at noon. So I'm like, you don't have me for long. So Neil Rogers, author of Bar Tips. Your website is positiveactivity.net, all the way from New Hampshire. Man, thanks for coming on the show. It's been great.
Thanks, Wes. Enjoyed it.
Hey, have a good day.
Too.